the knock on the door in the storm. The acid rain hit the roof like 1,000 needles. Outside, the dark sky rumbled with thunder. Lightning flashed, lighting up the lonely cabin in the middle of the rocky desert. Inside the small shelter, a human named Ryan was working on a broken solar battery. He was an engineer who lived alone on this cold, distant planet. The world was not friendly. The air was dry, the nights were deadly cold, and the storms were dangerous. Ryan had been here for many months. He was used to the silence, the wind, and the sound of machines. But tonight, something was different. Knock. Knock. The sound was soft, almost lost in the rain. Ryan looked up, confused. Did I just imagine that? He whispered to himself. Knock. Knock. No. Someone was outside. He stood up slowly and walked toward the door. His cabin was far from any town or road. No one ever came here. No one should come here. He opened the door. A cold wind rushed in, and with it, a shadowy figure fell into the doorway. It was a girl. An alien girl. She dropped to her knees, coughing. Her skin was pale blue, almost silver, and her long hair was wet and dirty. She wore a torn brown cloak soaked with rain. Her hands were shaking. Her legs were thin like sticks. Ryan grabbed her before she fell. Hey, are you okay? She looked up at him with wide, glowing eyes, half in fear, half in shock. I need shelter, she whispered. Her voice was soft, broken. I can't pay, I have nothing, but I will offer myself to you if you let me stay. Ryan froze. He didn't expect that. She was desperate, afraid, and clearly sick. She thought she had to give herself just to be allowed inside. Ryan's eyes narrowed. No, you don't need to offer anything. He pulled her gently inside. You're safe. Come in. She looked at him like he had just spoken a strange language. He closed the door behind them and locked it. The wind outside howled louder. She stood there, dripping water onto the floor, unsure what to do. Sit, he said softly. Here, you need warmth. He handed her a warm blanket and a cup of hot water. She held it with both hands like it was something holy. What's your name? Ryan asked. She looked down, silent for a moment, then said, Ilari. Okay, I'm Ryan. She nodded slowly. Then she looked around the cabin. Her eyes moved over the small heater, the simple table, the soft bed in the corner. She walked slowly toward the floor beside the bed and sat down, on the ground. No. Take the bed, Ryan said, but she shook her head quickly. I'm not allowed. This is your place. I will stay low. Ryan sighed. Something was very wrong with this girl. She acted like she was used to being punished. She didn't believe she deserved comfort. He gave her some food. She stared at it, then looked at him as if asking permission. You can eat, he said. She took a bite. Slowly, carefully. Ryan sat across from her and watched in silence. He had seen many things on alien worlds. Strange creatures, harsh weather, dying machines. But he had never seen someone like this. A girl who knocked on his door during a deadly storm. A girl who offered her body for simple shelter. A girl who looked at kindness like it was a trick. He had questions. Many questions. But not tonight. Tonight, he would just let her eat. Rest. Breathe. The rain outside fell harder. Inside, Ilari wrapped herself in the blanket and lay quietly on the floor. Her glowing eyes slowly closed. Ryan sat by the window staring into the storm. He didn't know who she was. He didn't know what she had run from. But something deep inside told him, this was not just a poor beggar, and whatever she was escaping from might soon come looking for her. The storm passed, but the silence it left behind was heavy. Ryan woke up early. He was used to working before sunrise. The sky outside his cabin still looked dark, with pale blue light slowly breaking through the clouds. He walked to the heater to check it, then stopped. Ilari was already awake. She was sitting near the wall, knees hugged to her chest, eyes wide open. She had not used the bed. The blanket lay folded beside her like she was afraid to touch it. "You didn't sleep?" Ryan asked. "I closed my eyes," she said quietly. "But I didn't know if I was allowed to sleep in your home." Ryan frowned. "You're not a prisoner here, Ilari." She tilted her head. "But I don't understand. You gave me food, warmth, a name to call you, and you didn't take anything in return." She looked down. "No one does that, not for someone like me." Ryan sat down across from her. He wanted to ask her what she meant by someone like me, but something in her eyes stopped him. "Did you eat the food from last night?" he asked instead. She nodded. "Yes, it was good. I have not eaten real food in days." Her stomach growled softly and Ryan smiled. "Then you need more. Come on, sit at the table." She stood slowly, unsure at first, then followed him. He gave her some leftover stew. It wasn't fancy, just protein paste, spice cubes, and dried vegetables. But to her, it seemed like a royal meal. As she ate, Ryan noticed something strange. She didn't use a spoon properly. She held it backward at first, then adjusted, watching how he did it. She ate each bite like it might be her last. "Ilari, have you ever lived in a home?" She paused. "I was born in a cage. I stayed in a work zone for years. When I escaped, I lived in tunnels, old ships, trash heaps. No one ever offered me a place like this." She looked around the small room, again, eyes scanning every object as if memorizing it. The lights, the heater, the tools, all so new to her. "I don't know what rest means," she said. "When you close your eyes and feel safe." Ryan was silent for a moment. Then he stood up and grabbed a soft pillow from a shelf. He walked over and gently placed it on the bed. "This is where people rest," he said. "No chains, no walls, just warmth." Ilari didn't move toward it. Her eyes filled with water, but she held back the tears. Suddenly, a faint beep echoed from the wall monitor. Ryan turned. An alert. "Unauthorized drone activity detected. Sector G5. His eyes narrowed. That was nearby. He walked over to the console and checked the scan. A small surveillance drone had passed over his area just an hour ago. He didn't like it. He didn't live near any patrol routes. The last time he saw a drone here, it was 6 months ago, and that one was broken. Now there was a working one. In this storm? He looked at Ilari. Her hands trembled slightly as she finished her stew. "Ilari," he said slowly, "is someone looking for you?" She froze. The spoon dropped from her fingers. Then, in a whisper, she said, "Yes." "Who?" "People who say they own me." Ryan stood quietly for a long time. He had guessed something like this, but hearing it from her mouth made his stomach twist. "Are they dangerous?" he asked. She nodded. "They don't let go of property. If they find me, they'll take me back. Maybe worse." Ryan looked out the window. The sky was clearing now. But that didn't mean safety. She stood up suddenly, moving toward the door. "I should go," she said. "You helped me more than anyone. If they catch me here, they'll hurt you." Ryan stepped in front of her. "Stop." She looked up at him in shock. "I don't care who they are. You don't need to run anymore. You're not property. You're not trash. And you're not leaving." Tears finally rolled down her cheeks. She tried to speak but couldn't. Ryan gently placed a hand on her shoulder. "You said you don't know what rest means. Maybe. It's time you learned." And for the first time, Ilari didn't argue. She walked to the bed, laid down slowly, closed her eyes and slept. For real. The next morning came quietly with no wind and no rain. But the silence outside felt wrong. Ryan stood by the window watching the gray sky. Clouds were breaking slowly, But something was moving up there, something sharp, black, and fast. Ship. Small. Military design. No lights. No welcome signal. He knew that shape. It wasn't a traitor. It wasn't lost. It was hunting. "Ilari," he said firmly. "Get up. Stay quiet." She woke instantly, trained by fear. She looked around, saw the tension in Ryan's face, and knew something was wrong. He pointed to the basement hatch. "Go below. Now. Don't ask questions." She obeyed without a word. The small ship hovered over his cabin like a hawk. It made no sound, but Ryan knew it was scanning. His outpost was off the grid, too quiet for normal attention. He had no idea how they found him. But now someone was looking, and they were close. A voice echoed from his wall-comm. "Attention, human resident of Sector G5. Open your door. We are looking for a fugitive. Cooperate and no harm will come to you." Ryan didn't move. The message repeated once. Then the ship descended. A man in a dark uniform stepped out. His face was pale, emotionless, and cruelly calm. Beside him was a tall alien enforcer, mechanical arms, glowing red visor, and a scanner in its chest. Ryan opened the door just a crack. "Can I help you?" he asked calmly. "We're tracking a criminal. Female. Escaped bonded slave. Stolen from our client. Pale blue skin. Thin. Young." Ryan kept his face blank. "Haven't seen anyone." The man's scanner beeped. It was reacting to something inside the cabin. "We're going to search." Ryan stepped in their way. "This is private human property. You'll need a permit." The enforcer raised one heavy arm, but the officer held up a hand. "Fine. We'll be back. With force, if needed." They turned and returned to the ship, Cartier. It lifted into the sky. Ryan shut the door fast, locked it, and rushed to the basement. Ilari sat on the floor, shaking. "They're here," she whispered. Ryan nodded. "They call me stolen property," she said bitterly, "but I was born in their labs, raised in training cages, sold like meat." Her voice cracked. "I didn't even know what the stars looked like until I ran." Ryan knelt beside her. "They won't take you." "But they always find me," she said. "Always. I hide, I run, I beg, and no one ever helps me." Ryan stared into her glowing eyes. "You didn't beg me. You just asked for shelter." She looked at him. "You didn't ask for payment. You didn't hurt me. That's never happened." Ryan stood. "Then let this be your first real place. Not a cage, a home." But deep inside he knew that wasn't the end of it. The ship would return. With weapons, with soldiers, with the full power of the system behind them, and all of that. To take back one scared girl. Ryan turned toward his workbench and unlocked a drawer. Inside was an old plasma rifle. Rusty, illegal. Human tech, but powerful. If they came again, they would learn a lesson. Humans might look peaceful, but they protect what matters. The next few days passed slowly. No more ships came. No soldiers knocked. But the fear stayed. Ryan upgraded his cabin's shields, reprogrammed the motion sensors, and cleaned the old plasma rifle every night. He didn't say much. He just worked. But Ilari watched him. Quietly. Carefully. She stayed indoors near the heater, always alert. She ate her food slowly, as if she expected it to be taken away. Sometimes she stared at the door for hours like she was waiting for it to burst open. But then, something changed. It started with noodles. Ryan made a quick meal from Earth-imported packets, something easy and warm. He boiled water, dropped in the noodles, added spice cubes. The smell filled the room. Ilari looked curious. He handed her a bowl and a fork. She took it slowly, poked the noodles, and tilted her head. Ryan sat across from her. "Just twist the fork, like this." She copied him clumsily. The noodles slid off the fork and dropped onto her lap. She blinked, then tried. Again. They flew off the plate. Ryan chuckled. Ilari looked at him in shock, then looked at the noodles in her lap. and for the first time she laughed. Not a big laugh, not loud, but real. It was a soft sound, a little broken, a little unsure, but it came from somewhere deep inside. Ryan froze, surprised. Hilary looked down and quickly covered her mouth. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean to." "Don't be sorry," Ryan said softly. "That's the best sound I've heard in months." She smiled, a real smile. That night they talked a little more. Hilary asked about Earth, about trees and oceans, about animals with soft fur, about why humans build homes with gardens, not just walls. Ryan told her stories about fireflies, snow, chocolate, and lazy mornings. She listened like a child hearing fairy tales for the first time. Then she surprised him again. "I want to learn how to grow flowers," she said. "Do you have seeds?" Ryan stared at her. "I think I have a few." "Why?" She hugged the blanket closer. "Because where I come from, nothing grows. Not even hope." The next morning she woke up before Ryan. She was in the small garden patch behind the cabin, kneeling in the cold dirt, planting seeds with her bare hands. Ryan watched from the door. She was humming softly. It wasn't a song, just a few sounds. But they weren't cries or whispers, they were life. She turned and saw him. "I think I'll call this flower Freedom," she said, smiling shyly. Ryan smiled back. "That's a good name." But as he looked at her, at the alien girl in a worn robe with dirty hands and a bright smile, he felt a chill. This peace wouldn't last. He knew the kind of men hunting her. Cold, merciless, trained to take. And if they saw her smiling like this, they'd see it as a crime. Because people, like her, weren't supposed to be happy. Not in their world, but in his world. She could be free, and Ryan would fight to keep it that way. The skies turned dark again, but this time the clouds weren't full of rain, they were full of war. Ryan was working on a solar panel outside when he felt it, a deep hum in the air. Not natural, not weather. It made the ground tremble. He turned, his eyes to the sky. 3 small black dots were falling from the clouds. Fast. Controlled. Dropships. Military. Ryan dropped his tools and ran. Inside the cabin, Hilary was near the window, frozen in fear. "They're back," she whispered. This time, they weren't here to ask questions. They were here to take her. Ryan activated the emergency locks on the cabin doors. Metal shields slid over the windows. He opened the floor panel. "Hilary, go to the tunnel, stay low, follow the light markers, don't stop." "But," she tried to argue. Ryan grabbed her shoulders. "I promised you peace, I'm not letting them take that away." Her lips trembled. "They'll kill you." He smiled softly. "I've been alone a long time. I finally had something worth protecting." Then he handed her a small silver card. "This opens the gate at the old mining outpost. There's food, water, and a comm signal. If I don't return, I'd send this to the humans in orbit." Hilary didn't want to take it. But she did. Then she kissed his cheek and ran into the tunnel without looking back. Outside, the first dropship landed with a blast of wind and dust. Ryan stood on his porch, plasma rifle ready. 3 figures stepped out. One was the cold-faced officer from before. Another was a masked alien mercenary with steel armor and stun rods. The third was the scanner bot. It beeped. Target was here, still nearby. The officer frowned. "Where is she?" Ryan didn't answer. The officer took one step forward. "Listen, human, you don't understand who you're dealing with. That girl is registered property. If you interfere, we'll consider you hostile." Ryan aimed the rifle at his chest. "I'm not a politician, I'm not a soldier, I'm just a man who opened his door." The alien mercenary moved fast, trying to flank him, but Ryan pulled the trigger. The plasma bolt hit the merc's shoulder, sending sparks flying. He roared in pain. Ryan moved back inside, locking the door. The officer gave the order. "Breach it." The scanner bot flew toward the door, its arms spinning. Sparks flew as it started to cut through the metal. Meanwhile, Ilari ran through the tunnel, tears streaming down her face. She followed the soft blue lights Ryan had placed on the walls. Glow sticks, guiding her through the dark, but each footstep echoed with guilt. She had run all her life, hidden all her life, and now, the only person who gave her safety might be dying for her. She reached the tunnel's end, looked back. Smoke was rising. Above the rocks, Ryan was still fighting. Her legs trembled, but this time, she didn't want to run. Not again. Back at the cabin, the door exploded. Ryan was thrown backward as fire lit the hallway. The officer and Merc entered, guns raised. Ryan coughed, his arm bleeding. He tried to reach for his rifle, but the Mercy kicked it away. The officer grabbed him by the collar. "Where is she?" Ryan smiled weakly. "Gone, and you'll never find her." The officer raised his weapon. Just then, a scream echoed through the air. From behind them, Ilari leapt from the rocks above, holding a sharp tool from Ryan's workbench. She struck the scanner bot, slicing its sensor eye. Sparks flew. The bot crashed. The officer turned, shocked. "Ilari?" She stood tall, still trembling, still scared, but defiant. "She's not yours," Ryan said. "Not anymore." The officer fired, but Ilari was faster. She threw the tool like a knife. It hit the weapon, sending it off target. Ryan grabbed his dropped rifle and fired one last shot. The Merc fell. The officer turned to run, but Ilari stepped in his path. He froze. "You were born to serve," he hissed. "No," she said calmly. "I was born to live." Then she raised her hand and pressed the beacon on Ryan's signal card. A bright blue pulse lit the sky. It would bring help, real help, and for the first time, Ilari wasn't hiding. She was fighting back. The sky had turned white. A cold wind swept across the mountain ridges, carrying ice and dust like blades. The cabin was in flames behind them, smoke rising into the freezing air. Ryan could barely walk. His right leg was burned. His breathing was sharp and shallow, but his grip on Ilari's shoulder was strong. "We need to keep going," he said, barely able to speak. Ilari supported him, one arm around his waist, the other gripping the emergency beacon tightly. They were moving through the old ice canyon, a narrow frozen path that Ryan had once mapped for supply runs. Now it was their only way out. Behind them, the last surviving enemy the cold-faced officer was chasing. He had survived the fight, and he was furious. "Just leave me," Ryan gasped. "You'll move faster alone." Ilari shook her head. "You saved me. You gave me a place, a name. Now I'm giving you back what you gave me. Hope." He tried to argue, but she kept pulling him forward. The wind howled louder, a sharp shriek between canyon walls. The ice beneath them was cracked and slick. Every step was dangerous. And then, a blast echoed behind them. A bolt of energy struck the side of the cliff, showering ice and snow. "He's close," Ilari whispered. They took cover behind a large block of ice. Ryan was fading fast. His hand slipped from her shoulder. "Stay with me," she cried. He blinked slowly. "Tell me a story." "What?" "Anything. Just talk." Ilari held his hand. Her voice was shaking, but she began to speak. There was a little girl born in a dark place. She never saw the stars, never knew what warm hands felt like. But she dreamed of someone who would call her Ilari. And she found him. Ryan smiled faintly. "That's a good story." Suddenly, another blast hit the ice near them, making the ground shake. Ilari helped Ryan back on his feet. "We're close," she said. "There's a hidden lift, a cargo rig. If we reach it, we can fly." But as they turned the corner, the officer stood there, gun pointed straight at her. His face was burned, his uniform torn, but his grip was steady. "It's over," he hissed. "You're a slave, you'll always be one." Ilari stepped in front of Ryan. "Not anymore." She threw the beacon. It hit the ice under the officer's feet. Boom! A blast of blue energy shattered the ice floor, sending him crashing into the freezing water below. he screamed. And then, silence. Ilari knelt beside Ryan. "I found the lift," she said, breathless. "And can you move?" "I can try." She dragged him the last few steps. The cargo rig was half buried in snow, but the controls still glowed. She slammed the activation key. The engines roared to life, lifting them slowly into the sky. As they rose above the icy canyon, Ilari looked down. The cabin was gone. Her cage was gone. The chains in her mind were gone. Ryan leaned against her, barely conscious. "You saved me," she smiled. "You saved me first." Far above, the signal from the beacon had reached orbit. And now, someone was coming. But this time, not to capture her, to welcome her. As the ship climbed into the clouds, Ilari whispered to herself, "I am not property, I am not a weapon, I am not afraid. I am home." The rig soared across the sky, its old engines shaking but steady. Behind them, the world of snow and fire grew smaller. Ilari sat beside Ryan, holding his hand tightly. His eyes were half open, his breath slow. He was alive, but he was hurt, badly. His leg was burned, his chest had bruises, and his voice had gone quiet. Ilari gritted her teeth, flying the ship as fast as it would go. Her hands shook, but her eyes were clear now. No more running, no more begging, no more hiding. The beacon Ryan had given her had done its job. Somewhere out there, humans had heard it, and they were coming. The ship landed at a small, human station hidden between the rocks, one of Ryan's backup bases. She had never seen it before, but the silver key he gave her unlocked the gates. Inside were supplies, water, bandages, food, oxygen. She dragged Ryan inside, laid him on the cot, and wrapped his wounds. Her hands were clumsy, but careful. As he rested, she sat beside him, watching his chest rise and fall. Her eyes drifted to the corner of the room where a dusty photo hung. Ryan as a boy, holding a dog, smiling. That photo broke her. She had never had a photo, never had a home, never smiled like that. But now, someone had fought for her like no one ever had. 2 days passed. Then, one morning, the sky above the station turned silver. A human rescue ship appeared, descending slowly, with soft lights, and the Earth emblem shining on its side. Ilari stepped outside, standing tall, wind brushing her white hair. A group of humans walked out, doctors, officers, and one woman with kind eyes who said, "You sent the beacon?" Ilari nodded. "He did. He saved me." The team rushed inside to Ryan. They began healing him, stabilizing him. His vitals were low but alive. "He needs real care," a medic said. "We'll take him to the orbital station." The officer turned to Ilari. "And you? What's your name?" Ilari paused, then she said it clearly. "Ilari. My name is Ilari." The officer nodded. "Do you know who was trying to capture you?" "They called me property," she said, "but I am not. I'm a person." The woman smiled. "Yes, you are." In the orbital station, Ryan recovered slowly. Machines helped him breathe. Bandages covered his chest and arm, but his mind stayed sharp. One day he woke fully and saw her sleeping beside his bed, holding his hand. "Ilari," he whispered. Her eyes opened fast. "You're awake," he smiled. "Did we make it?" She nodded. "You saved me." He laughed weakly. "I think you saved me this time." Doctors came in. Tests were done. He needed weeks of healing. But the danger was over. Ilari stayed at his side every single day. She brought him tea. Read him human books, simple ones with drawings. Asked silly questions about Earth animals. "Are bunnies real?" "Yes. They sound like aliens." "Some people think humans are the real aliens." They both laughed. That laughter filled his hospital room more than medicine ever could. Weeks later, when Ryan could walk again, the human authorities called them both in. They offered Ilari full protection, a new identity, a home on a free human colony. But they asked a question. Do you want to stay with Ryan or live somewhere new? She looked at Ryan. He didn't speak. He didn't ask her to stay. He just waited. She smiled. He was the first person who didn't want anything from me, but he gave me everything. She turned to the officer. I want to stay with him. A year passed. Ryan built a new house, this time on a green world. Not cold, not dry. The grass was soft. The wind was kind. Ilari planted flowers everywhere, red ones, blue ones. A tall yellow one she named Hope. She wore a simple white dress now, no longer hiding in robes or rags. She smiled easily, laughed freely. She even started painting. Strange alien suns, blue animals, and one picture of a man standing in front of a tiny cabin with a girl beside him. Sometimes neighbors came. They whispered things like, "She used to be a slave. She looks so happy. She's with him?" But Ilari didn't care. Ryan didn't care. Their garden grew stronger every season. One evening, they sat on the porch together watching the sunset. Ryan's arm was around her shoulder. "Ilari," he said softly, "you can go anywhere now. Be anyone." She rested her head against him. "I don't want to be anyone else." He chuckled. "No more running?" She shook her head. "Not from anything. Not anymore." Then she looked at him, her voice calm. "You gave me shelter. I offered you nothing but broken pieces, and you gave me a home, a name, and a heart that healed." He looked at her eyes, still glowing softly under the setting sun. "You never needed to offer anything," he said. "You were always enough." Tears touched her cheeks, but this time they were warm. She leaned in and whispered something in her native tongue. He didn't understand the words, but he understood the meaning. Years passed. Together, they built a place that others visited. Runaways, lost ones, old soldiers, and former slaves. Ilari welcomed them all. Ryan taught them to build. They called it the sanctuary, and on a small rock by the gate, Ilari carved these words. "This is not a prison. This is not a station. This is a home. If you've ever been called worthless, come in. You are welcome here." Ilari never forgot the night she knocked on a stranger's door, and she never forgot what he gave her instead of taking anything. Not just shelter, not just warmth. He gave her love, and a place to belong, a place to call her own.